Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Speakeasy. I am Srath Nay, and I realize my camera's a little bit blurry for this episode and try to do everything I could to fix it, but to no avail, but I'll figure it out later. But I was hoping to go on tour, but COVID hit, and I wanted to interview comics in the Central Time Zone because I love Middle America. And with that said, my next guest is from Chicago. Welcome to the show, Mike O'Keefe. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's good to be here in my apartment in the Central Time Zone, the most useless time zone there is.
Indeed. I used to live in the Mountain Time Zone myself, and I'm a Colorado native.
Oh,
And,
right on. That
yeah.
one, Mountain's pretty useless too. All the time zones stink. I think everyone should be on the same time, and it should be the same time everywhere. And Japanese people just get up at night in Japan, and that's how it should be. I'm tired of math.
Me too. I'm not a math guy either. Like I picked math comm as my subject in college just so that way I didn't have to take math or science classes. So it's great.
I got a D+ in the easiest math class you can take at Michigan State University. And that was after dropping out of the second easiest class you could take. So yeah, not my strong suit, but what are you going to do? But thanks for having me. This is, it's lovely to be here in this speakeasy that is my own apartment.
Ah, fantastic. Great stuff. Indeed. So, Mike, you are a young, yet veteran comic who prides himself on his original brand of self-deprecating jackassery and a tireless work ethic. Explain yourself.
I just want to keep young on there. I've been doing comedy almost 12 years now, and I just want to be able to keep young on there as long as possible. That's really it's really what it is. I started when I was 19 and 31 now. And yeah, most of my entire adult life spent doing comedy and being silly.
Indeed, most definitely. I'm glad you started early. I started when I was 30, and I'm like 7 years in, but I'm 38. I don't look 38, but everyone says you look mid-20s or something. It's bizarre.
You could have told me you were 22 years old. You look fantastic.
Ah, thank you. They say Asians don't raisin, so it's fantastic.
Of course.
Indeed. So, Mike, you said you have you've pretty much made yourself known in the national comedy scene, and what are some of your favorite places to perform stand-up in, like nationwide?
Oh, I love Minneapolis is great. I like the Comedy Corner Underground in Minneapolis. The clubs back home in Michigan, Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase and the Comedy Castle are they're my home clubs. I love them. Go Bananas in Cincy is really good. Appleton, Skyline Comedy Cafe in Appleton, Wisconsin is great. Those are like whenever anyone asks, those are my go-tos. Those are the places that I make a point of going to at least every year. Those clubs are the best.
Absolutely.
In my opinion. Everyone always says that their home club is the greatest, and I'm sure it is to them. But those are the places that I've really enjoyed going back to again and again all these years.
Most definitely. My homeroom is the Tinnanog Irish Pub in Daytona Beach, and they've been having stand-up for 11 years now, and it's a dive bar, and Doug Stanhope did like a surprise set there. I was like, man, this is so cool.
Oh, that's amazing. Nice.
Yeah. And so you've had multiple appearances on Sirius XM radio too. And what was it like to hear your voice on Sirius XM for the first time?
Weird. It was very weird. It was odd, but it's cool. It's people send you the little readout of your name on there, and you get to show that to your mom, and your mom stops bugging you about getting a real job for a little bit. It's very nice.
Indeed, most definitely. I got cheesed when my buddy hears them scratch. He's a DJ in Daytona Beach, and he's like, "It's 420 funny. Submit your stuff," you know. And I'm like, "Okay." So he had to stop it at a certain point because it gets really dirty towards the end. But I'm glad, it was. I was pretty cheesed to hear my voice, even if it was like on a smaller platform than Sirius XM. So it was pretty nice.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Indeed, and you also have a hit podcast called Education Schmeducation, and I love the name of it.
Oh,
So,
thank you. I appreciate it. It's such a hit. We've only done 3 episodes, but it's a hit.
uh,
And it's not. But if you tell people it's a hit, they don't second guess it. And that's the trick. That's the trick to success, is just pretend you're successful. But it's been great. It's been really fun so far. I'm currently in grad school right now, thanks to the pandemic, to become a teacher. And there were a lot of different experiences that I had going to mostly Catholic school that I now realize were very unique. But you don't realize that they're unique when you're in school, because you're just there and it's school and it's, it sucks. But I realized that, there are a lot of different stories that people had about going to school and about their, experiences. And I thought, hey, this is something that's going to be fun to talk about. And it's also going to help me with my, new, I guess, second career would be a weird way to phrase it. Cause I'm never going to quit comedy. Like, that seems, what a dumb thing to quit. Why would I quit the thing that's been the funnest thing I've ever done? And I don't know what life would look like without it, or how I would interact with anybody. But yeah, it's been good. We've, my buddy Ricardo, who I started with, who's also a rapper, was on the show this week, and he's great. He talked a lot about growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. My buddy Meredith, who's also Meredith Catchell, who's a comedian here in Chicago, who's also who's in the same program as me to become a teacher, was on the show. We recorded one with Ben Roy, my buddy Ben Roy from Denver, who played a teacher on TV. He was great. That'll be coming out soon. And yeah, it's been a blast so far. And my buddy Elliot Rahal, who makes comic books, is going to be on very shortly. But yeah, it's been great. And I did a podcast for 65 episodes before this one called Buddy of the Groom, where I interviewed people to be my groomsmen. I was never engaged. That's my girlfriend's least favorite joke. So that, all of those episodes are still up on the same feed as Education Schmeducation. So you can go through all those, and that's, a light listen is fun. But yeah, they've been great so far, and I'm excited to keep doing them.
Indeed, most definitely. And the iTunes link is scrolling on there, and it's also on the bottom of this to subscribe and give Mike a great review, a 5-star review on iTunes if you can.
I would love it if you did that, everyone.
Indeed, most definitely. And I've heard of Ben Roy because I'm a Colorado native, and I've heard a lot about the Grolics, and I got to interview Adam Kate and Holland on like another of one of these, and all that good stuff. So
yeah,
they work together on
all 3 of those guys. Adam and Ben and Andy Overdahl are just so, man, those guys are so freaking funny. I don't know if we can cuss on here. I've decided to not cuss. The country is falling apart, and I think cussing would just make that worse at this point.
Indeed, most definitely. In my stand-up, I'm known as the cleanest, dirtiest comic on stage because I say really dirty things, but I don't use a curse word. And it's fantastic.
That's a great way to be. I love that. That's kind of what I always tried to do as well. I don't know. It's really fun to say fuck. Why not? It's fun to say it, but I think it really takes a lot to to not say it. And I think it's a good challenge to not say it. But I like, if you want to say it, say it.
Yeah.
I'm not out here policing people's vocabulary.
Nope.
That's not my game. That's not my bag, Sarah. That's not what I'm here to do. Here to speak easy in stand-up speakeasy.
Absolutely.
O'Keefe.
Indeed, most definitely. And Mike, I was hoping to go on tour of the Central Time Zone and interview as many comics as I can. And what I've done for the Florida scene here, there's like 600 interviews of all the Florida comics here on my channel.
Wow.
And I was hoping to do that before the pandemic hit. And so, with that being said, these are the questions I wanted to ask you if I was to go on tour. So, Mike, what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy?
Well, this is it's interesting. I always loved it. I loved it very much. I watched it constantly as a child. I would watch stand up every Friday night on Comedy Central. Stand up Fridays. They would run all these presents, and I remember being a little child and thinking that like Dave Attell was the coolest dude ever because he was so funny, and like thinking that like I thought Brian Regan was the most famous, like he's the funniest, so he's obviously the most famous person on the planet. And then you go to school on Monday and no one cares, But I always loved it, and then I started to sneak in to the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase in high school, and I had a very similar facial hair situation and hairline as I do now. I look 40, but I've looked 40 since I was 16. So I would sneak into the showcase and watch really, really great comics like Jimmy Pardo and Gary Goldman and Jackie Cation and Maria Bamford. And I always kind of knew in the back of my head that I was going to try it because I loved it so much. And then my freshman year of college, I had a huge breakup with a woman who is currently a teacher in Detroit. Shout out to Haley Kennedy if she sees this. But it was a really bad breakup, and I thought, I'll show her. I'll do stand-up comedy. And then, 12 years later, I'm talking to you. So that's kind of what happened. Yeah. So a mixture of beguilement at the art of stand-up comedy and massive heartbreak is what inspired me to start stand-up.
Indeed. And what was the feeling like when you first performed stand-up?
What was the feeling like? I followed a guy who is unfortunately no longer with us, but it was this man named Ben Constantine who was hilarious, and we ended up becoming friends years later. Not the first time I performed, though. The first time I performed, I had to follow Ben running his Letterman audition set. So I had to follow a guy like just destroying with this perfectly crafted material. And I was so nervous, and I got 2 laughs. And I thought, well, looks like I'm doing this for the rest of my life. It was that instantaneous that I was like, well, that was enough for me to do this. Here we go. Let's do a journey.
Indeed, most definitely. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
Oh man, Dave Chappelle, Killing Them Softly is probably my favorite from when I was a kid. I'm sure it's still great. A matter of fact, I know it's still great because I just thought of the Oscar the Grouch thing in my head, and I thought it was funny. So Killing Them Softly is definitely up there. I'm trying to think. Feeling Kind of Patton by Patton Oswalt was really huge for me. Brian Regan Live was big. There's a really weird one that I listen to a lot, and it's this record called Rickles Speaks by Don Rickles, and it's the weirdest because Don Rickles did crowd work. He would just do mainly crowd work, and he would walk around the room and make fun of people and their different ethnicities. And boy, oh boy, how funny was that? But on this record, it's all about current events, and it came out in like the late '60s. And he sets it up kind of like a press conference. So there's all these people going, Don, how do you feel about Richard Nixon? And they go, Richard Nixon's a beep, beep, boop, boop, beep. And he does the jokes, and these people who are interviewing him laugh, and it's really funny. And I listened to it so much because I loved history, and I thought Rickles was the funniest, and I still think he's one of the funniest. So yeah, those were like my big ones. Those were the big ones for me, and yeah, those were huge. Those were huge.
Indeed, and a lot of those folks have been on TV and film, and I want to know what your favorite sitcom, sketch shows, and comedy films are.
Okay, so my favorite, man, that's a good question. My favorite scam, sitcom, probably the one I've watched the most is The Office, but I don't know if that's my favorite because that The Office to me is more like it's like watching. It's the same feeling as like drinking hot chocolate as watching The Office. It's just like comforting. But I'd probably have to put that up there. I tell you what, this show Ted Lasso that came out over the summer is so fucking good, and it's only done one season, but it's great. So Ted Lasso definitely up there. What else? My favorite comedy movie. There's 3 movies that I think are incredibly underrated. They all came out within about 5 years of each other, and they're my favorite comedy films because they're just wall-to-wall laughs. Hot Rod, Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, and the MacGruber movie I could watch on a loop. I could just watch those 3 on a loop, and I would just laugh. I would laugh constantly. If we're talking sketch shows, Chappelle, number 1 with a bullet. I'm very sad that we're not supposed to watch it because Daddy Dave told us not to, and I will do what he wants me to do because I love my Daddy Dave. Yeah, and then I was a big Kids in the Hall guy too, because Kids in the Hall was on when I would get home from school, and so I watched Kids in the Hall a lot. Yeah, and yeah, and Tim Robinson's thing, I Think You Should Leave, is great as well. That's man, I'll watch I Think You Should Leave if I'm like having a bad day. I'll just put that sketch show on. It's the best. Yeah.
Indeed, and if you can go on tour with any comedians locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
Oh man, probably just my friends. Honestly, it would just be honestly, it would just be like Ricardo Flanagan, my good buddy who was on the podcast, Trevor Smith, who I started with, who's like the best dude, and like David Rader, who's like one of my really. I would just want it to be my friends. I don't want to spend, a month being in awe of someone. I just want to hang out with my buddies. But if there was one, I'd probably Gary Goldman, because I've opened for him a number of times, and it's very fun to open for him because he is a good writer and he will watch your set and tell you what he liked and didn't like, and that's very helpful. Who else was fun to hang out with? Matt Bronger was really cool. He was a cool guy. I liked hanging out with Matt Bronger. Tom Simmons is a great dude. I like Tom Cat a lot. Sean Pat. It was fun to open for Sean Patton too. I've opened up for Sean a number of times. Sean's a great hang. Yeah, probably just honestly buddies. I think it would be fun to do a tour with my friends, and also those kind of famous people I just mentioned.
Indeed, most definitely. I agree. Going on tour with friends would be rad.
Yeah.
And
Going anywhere with friends sounds great right now.
most definitely, indeed. And you mentioned Don Rickles earlier, and he's, known for his roasts and stuff. And if you can get roasted by 5 comedians, past and present, which comedians would you like to get roasted by?
Oh, who that would roast me? Well, number one probably be Rickles. I mean, the Queen of Mean, Lisa Lampanelli, would not because I love her, but because I think she could use the work. See, that's a roast on a roaster. That's cyclical. It's nice. No, Rickles definitely. I don't know. Rich Little, the impressionist, that would be funny. Just because it would be like getting roasted by 10 different people. That would be nice. Man, that's a great question. I was not prepared for such a fantastic question. Giraldo, I always loved watching Greg Giraldo on those roasts. He was very funny on the roasts. Probably Patrice O'Neill, who is another guy I saw as a high schooler and was just in awe of him. So yeah, Giraldo, Patrice, Rickles, just Jeff Dunham's puppet Walter, just Walter. I don't want the other ones piping up. They stay in the case. Walter can roast me. And Michael Keaton, former stand-up comedian Michael Keaton, because I want to meet Batman. Who doesn't want to meet Batman? And he's got the jobs, so let's hang out, Keaton.
Indeed, most definitely. I saw him on the Comedy Store documentary, and that was pretty neat. How he had I didn't know he did stand up, and that's what made me learn that he did stand up, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, he was a good comedian, and then night shift happened, and off you go.
Indeed, most def. And where do you see your comedy career in the next 5 years?
Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I don't know if. I mean, what's comedy going to look like in 5 years? I mean, I think what it really boils down to is that I'm not going to stop doing it. I'm going to keep trying, and hopefully, Patton Oswalt had this great quote on a podcast once where he said, there's 2 different types of comedians who have been doing comedy for 20 years. There are the kinds that do it for 20 years, and there's the kind that do it for 1 year and then repeat that year 20 times. And I want to be the former instead of the latter. So just keep going. I think that's really the trick, is to not give up. Because there's so many reasons to give up. It's a very dumb thing, stand-up comedy. It's so stupid that anyone tries it, but just don't give up. Or give up. Who cares?
Exactly. I wanted to throw in the towel so many times with this thing, and each time I'm like, they're like, "You're full of cheese. You're not really retiring," but it puts the cheeks in seats. So it's
Yeah,
fantastic.
exactly.
It's a good marketing ploy, I think. And so, and Mike, what other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like improv, sketch, comedy, writing, acting, directing, etc.?
I write scripts in my my spare time. So hopefully we can one day one of those gets made. That would be cool. As far as improv goes, nah. No thanks. And I like writing sketches too, but yeah, writing's cool. I like writing a lot. I think the only thing dumber than trying to do stand-up comedy is trying to be an actor. But if I am called upon to act, I'll act my little heart out. I did some student films in college that no one saw, and that was fun. But yeah, I don't know. I like doing stand-up, and I like writing scripts, and that's about it.
Indeed, most definitely. And what is your favorite joke a comic's ever written?
Oh my God. My favorite joke a comic's ever written. There's so many jokes. There's so many to choose from. Probably, I'll tell you what. First answer, best answer. Gary Goldman's bit about role playing he did on Conan is up there for me. That's great. Brian Regan doing the science fair bit is a classic. And the third one I can think of is Greg Giraldo had this bit about the Taco Bell dog having other interests. I thought that was, I remember that joke very vividly. And Greg Warren with the Flute Man bit is great. Other than those, I don't remember any other jokes.
Most definitely. And what experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
I recently, and by recently I mean probably a year and a half ago, I had the just horrendous experience of basically watching my dad pass away. He was sick for many months, and I was able to mine some comedy out of that. So the first thing I would like them to experience is joy and laughter. I would like for them to laugh and for them to think, oh, that is a funny man. And then secondarily, I would like for them to think that person went through a tough thing and had a lot of jokes about tougher things that they've been through. And they were able to make that into something else other than just pain. And I feel a little bit less alone in the pain that I feel on a daily basis. And that happened because this person did that material, essentially. So I want people to be able to, not feel as alone, which is, I think, the point of all art is to have someone have a similar experience and for them to feel something, I guess.
Most definitely, indeed. And for the next segment, Kevin had nominated you for being my guest on the show. And
Oh, Kevin Kellum?
yep, I got to interview
What
him.
a piece of shit. Kevin's a great friend of mine and a great man. And he was on Buddy of the Groom twice. Kevin would there's no one I would like to have next to me in a foxhole more than Kevin Kellum until he starts talking. He is a very annoying man. And he does not shut up. But what he says is always very nice and delightful. But boy, oh boy, I'm in a group chat with Kevin, and he's always 2 to 15 topics behind, and he has no thread. He has zero thread awareness, and is the butt of most jokes. And his grammar when he texts is abhorrent. A great man and a great friend. Complete idiot. He is Mr. Magoo in real life. A great man, though. I love Kevin too.
Indeed, I love talking to him about pro wrestling and stuff, and it was great.
Hi, man. Big night last night. The Bullet Club reformed. Everyone to Sweden. It was pretty tight.
Indeed, I watched that on YouTube because I wasn't home because I had to be in Daytona for the mic, but it was all right. I catch all my wrestling on YouTube towards on Wednesdays because I don't have cable. But oh well.
Oh, you gotta do 'em. You gotta do it.
Indeed, most deaf. And Mike, as Kevin nominated you, which comics would you like to see as my future guests on the show?
Oh boy. I want you to talk to Kevin again, and I want you to tell him what I just told you about Kevin. Who I don't know. Michael Myers is pretty funny. He put out an album this year that is one of the greatest practical jokes I've ever experienced in my entire life. So that's a plug for Mike Myers' his album, which is called, I'm gonna look it up right now because I forgot the name of it. It's called From Afar by Michael Myers. It's a treat. That's my album of the year for 2020. Yeah, I'd say Myers or David Rader would be he would be good too, because he's a lovely man and loves to talk.
Indeed, most definitely. I actually reached out to the both cats, and they have been interviewed already. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, they're. I got to know them and on by internet wise, and they're fantastic. So,
yeah.
Cool, folks. I'll have to send you those interviews for you.
Sounds good, buddy.
Indeed, most definitely. And Mike, are there any final words you'd like to give out to the audience at home?
Just check out the podcast. I think you're gonna really like it. It's good. I rambled a lot tonight. I ramble much less on my podcast. But I'm being interviewed and you're supposed to give good answers, and that's all I was trying to do. If you don't like it, get off my friggin' dong, dude. But yeah, listen to education, some education, and try and be cool to people, be nice to each other, try to have empathy. Don't be a racist. That's bad. And that's all I got.
Awesome words there to live by. And Mike, please follow Mike at home on Instagram and Twitter. Subscribe to his iTunes, donate to his Venmo because comics are out of work at the moment in Chicago, but not so much here in Florida because they're crazy. so
Swamp down in Florida, unreal.
Indeed, most definitely. And so, Mike, thank you so much for being my guest today on the Stand Up Speakeasy, and it was a pleasure talking to you. And I can't wait to go to Chicago in October and meet you in person and all that good stuff.
Hell yeah, dude! It's a date. Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Awesome, Mike. You're welcome. We'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.